Hey folks, Cadillac Doctor here again. Today we're going to look at the common problem with Cadillac SUVs, Escalade in particular, goes along with Chevy Tahoe, Chevrolet pickup trucks, what else? Yukon, Avalanche, Escalade EXT and ESV. Your power locks may get to a point where they don't want to function with the power control anymore. So let's just watch what happens here. You get a little twitch, but it doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do. And that is the problem with that is there's an actuator motor inside the latch, the door latch itself, which of course is right there. And so it's not a separate part anymore. It's part of the latch. The part from General Motors is a little bit more expensive. They are available aftermarket. What a lot of people are a little bit afraid of is actually replacing it. It's not actually that difficult. It does kind of require a bit of a steady hand, but it's not particularly difficult. So today I'm going to walk you through how to do that. We've got a little bit dirty but fairly pristine door panel there, so we don't want to damage that. So we're going to take provisions in order to keep that in the best condition it can be. To do this job, we're going to need a 10mm socket, an extension, something to drive that socket with, whether it be electric, air ratchet, or a regular ratchet, a straight pick, a couple of different size screwdrivers or an upholstery tool, a T30 Torx bit, and something to drive it with. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to need is our smallest see if I can focus on that, smallest screwdriver here. And we're going to come over to the truck, and right here there's a little square. So I'm going to do my best to hold the camera and pull it up a little and get your and I made a little bit of damage there. Sometimes you can scratch that off, but anyway, you want to pop it out so that it looks like that. You don't want to get it in too far behind it and make it go flying across the room, and after that you can literally just slide that off. So I have a habit of putting all my parts on the floor mat, obviously making sure that there's not much else on the floor mat. We don't want to confuse it with dirt or debris or other pieces that were inside the vehicle. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit better. And so continuing on, we'll for the next piece I'm going to use the pick. It's just a straight pick. You can almost literally buy these at a dollar store. And you get in, I tend to start from the corner because you have less chance of damage. And obviously due to the lack of two hands, because I'm holding the camera with one hand, just pop that out and pick it out of there. Hidden in behind there, and the lighting's not the greatest, but there are two 10mm bolts. Now the same goes with this. You can see there's a little bit place to put in a tool there, so I'm going to switch tools back to the small screwdriver, and I'm trying to give you guys the best view of this as I can. It's not the easiest thing to do while I'm holding the camera, obviously. Yeah, this is a bit of a struggle with only one hand. So you get under there, just give that a little bit of a twist or a pull. And of course I've dropped it, but you can see there's another 10mm bolt in behind there. So I always recommend, as you're working, if you drop something like that, just make sure it doesn't go missing. It's you know, kind of keep everything in the same place. The other thing we'll need to do, sometimes you can get this off with your fingers. Get your fingers in behind it. It's not the easiest thing. So for that, we'll use a slightly larger screwdriver or an upholstery tool. This is just a regular flat screwdriver. And I'm going to use the flat edge of the screwdriver. And this is a plastic molding, and this in some of the other models it's rubber. This is a plastic molding, so we don't want to get too aggressive with it because we don't want to leave a big mark on it or anything like that. Get in there, and it's just a couple of push clips, and it's got a little tab there that goes down in the bottom. So it's not particularly hard to get off. You just don't want to damage anything that's going to look ugly afterwards. So just to recap, now we're back to our door. We're missing the triangular panel that goes over the mirror. We're missing our lock knob cover, and we're missing the bolt cover that goes back in here. Now, the other thing that you can do, it's not absolutely necessary, but if you kind of put your fingers down behind there, that panel pops up with the door lock and window switches on it. So again, you want to apply an even pressure so that you're not, like, you know, you're not just pulling up one end of it or the other. You want the whole thing to kind of come up together. And in behind here, we're going to press the tab. And again, I'm kind of wrestling to do this with one hand because I don't have a videographer here today. Same thing with the others. And I'm going to do my best to not drop this. Again, I'm holding the camera with one hand. So that's our passenger door module. It is legitimately described in the service manual as a passenger door module. It does control a few other things. So we're pretty much down to the point where we're going to go ahead and take the door panel off. Okay, so I've got my ratchet here. Again, you might have a manual ratchet, that's fine. I happen to have an air ratchet handy and some compressed air. So we're going to go ahead, get in here, and hopefully this isn't too loud through the camera, but we'll just go ahead and yeah, even though you can't really touch these bolts, guys, you can kind of feel when they're at their end. They'll generally click a little bit because they go into speed clips behind there. And then we can't forget our guy up here. I'm gonna have to put the camera down for a second because you have to hold out this inner door latch handle so that you're not scratching it with the socket. Okay, so that's done. So what I've done is removed my extension and socket from the air ratchet, or regular ratchet if that's what you're using. I just go in there, make sure it's all the way loose, and kind of very carefully and slowly try to pick it out of there. What I'm trying not to do is drop it inside the door panel. It's a bit of a pain to get out if you do. A small magnet on the small telescopic magnet, again generally available at a tool store or a dollar store, and just carefully bring them out of there with the end of the socket. If you're having trouble grabbing the bolts with the socket, what sometimes a person can do is put a piece of electrical tape straight flat over the end of the socket and then push it onto the end of the bolt, and that kind of helps it grab it a little bit more tenaciously. So now For this part, I tend to use my bare hands. Some people don't have stronger hands. I do this every day for a living, so I'm able to get in behind here. There's a little bit of a gap usually at the top, and kind of work your fingers down, and there'll be a clip about a third of the way down. Pull, get your fingers in, or upholstery tool as far as you can, and you can see it how it popped out like that. Don't pull out along the top, because this kind of hooks into the door. So we're gonna give you the best view that I can try here. So kind of work your way around the door. If it feels like it doesn't want to come, it's going to be pretty loud, obviously, and just work your way around the door and get all of the clips free. Okay, so now you can see the whole door panel. Move out here a little bit. The whole door panel wants to swing away from the door. So now what we can do is literally grab the door panel as if you're going to close the door, and lift straight up and kind of give it a wiggle. So now all you have left is the cable that goes to the door release handle, right? Sorry if the image was flipping up and down there. I realized I had the camera upside down. So what we have to do is release. Give you guys the best view I can here. Sorry, it's really awkward to do this, but in here, right in there, there are two kind of harpoon clips that only go one way, so you have to click one of them up, and we're going to use our small screwdriver for that. So we're going to get in here, click one of them up, and at the same time, and like again, this is really hard to orchestrate with only one hand, and we're going to pull a little bit of tension on the cable, and then we're going to get the other one, and then there's a slot there where the cable comes out. Everybody see that? Came out of there, comes up. So now the door panel is completely free from the door. We can grab it, and oops, I forgot one connector. So that's a little trick I do too. You don't want to put too much weight on this, but I've hooked in just the bottom hooks on the door there, just to let it rest on something while I'm dealing with that one connector that I forgot about. And again, I'm doing this with one hand, so it's not really the easiest thing, but you want to just kind of pick away the one edge there. So, again, some folks might need a tool to do so. I'm going to try to do it with the tool here so I can show you what to do. You don't want to get too aggressive with it. There's no need to. You get your tool under the edge, the very end of it here, and give just a little bit of a twist. Whoops. This is I really should have recruited a videographer for today's video. Okay. I'm going to have to pause the video recording just so I can do this. Okay, success. So we've got our last we have our last connector out of the way here, and I realized that that's actually the wire that goes down to our courtesy light on the inside of the door panel here. So again, we can grab the door panel from the regular handle, because that's where it's designed to be held by. So it's reinforced a little bit. We can I just happen to have one of the seats out because I'm going to be cleaning this vehicle later, but So we're just gonna lean it against something. If you are leaning it against another piece of upholstery, just make sure there's nothing on the back of it that's going to stab through the upholstery or anything. That would be really inconvenient and really expensive to repair. So there's an insulator pad. So just carefully, we don't want to rip this quickly. We just want to manipulate it down far enough. It's on with polyurethane, same stuff that you put windshields in with. And we just kind of slowly get our finger under the polyurethane. It shouldn't be messy or gooey, so you can do this with your bare hands and not worry too much. You know, a lot of people don't particularly love getting dirty, and that's okay. You don't have to be covered from head to toe in grease to be able to repair a vehicle. So now I've forgotten a light today, but in here there is that clip right there. Get your, sorry about the lighting, guys. Get your finger under the outboard side of it, and you can kind of feel an edge there. Pull towards you hard, and that will open it up, and you'll have a dangling rod right there. And that is the rod that goes to the outside door handle, which actuates the door to open it. So when you pull on the outside door handle, it pushes that lever down, releasing the door latch. So keep that in mind, because we're going to have to use that again later. So now that that's disconnected, we're going to go change tools. Alright, so we've got our 3/8 ratchet with the T30 Torx bit. The end of the Torx bit looks like that. Do not try to use a Phillips screwdriver. You will not be successful, and you will be very disappointed in the end result. So we're going to make sure that our air ratchet is set to loosen. Again, you can go ahead and use a regular ratchet for this if you want. Just you don't necessarily need a power operated one. Get in here, and if you do have an air ratchet or a battery operated mechanical ratchet, give these a little counterclockwise jerk before you hit the trigger. You want to kind of break them free so that you don't apply suddenly a whole bunch of torque to little bitty screws like that. You don't want to strip the heads out, and then you spend a whole bunch of time kind of fighting with them and probably eventually replacing them. So let's go ahead and take those three out. Again, make sure you keep all your hardware kind of in the same general area. That way you know where to look for it. You're not scrambling around at the end of the job. You don't want to leave the job half done or have to run out and buy some new hardware or anything like that. Just adds frustration. It's unnecessary. Okay, so when you get to the last one, as you can see, the latch just literally falls out of the sheet metal. So I'm just going to put my my tool back on the bench here. So getting back over here, so the latch is in here. Now it's not attached to the sheet metal anymore. As you can see, just open hole, kind of wiggling around there. And you have to keep in mind that that is still attached to it, that rod. So you do have to sometimes manipulate that rod through the hole, and then the whole latch will literally fall down. Now, down here, is where the latch has fallen, and you kind of have to rotate it out of its position. There's an electrical connector there, which we're going to address in a second. But meanwhile, the actually no, we'll have to address that right away. And the reason for that is that you can't get the latch to where you need it to be to get it out of that where it is with that electrical connector attached. Now, I don't know, you probably noticed, guys, that I've left the window up for this. The window can't be down because it'll be in your way. When the window goes down, it ends up inside the door. So the way you get this off is lightly get a flat plate in there and just kind of maneuver up. A lot of times they're really difficult to get off because you get a bunch of dirt and grime inside the door sometimes, but this one was reasonably clean. You can see there's a little bit of dust on the side impact beam there, but these are designed to go onto the connector at the same time as that is going down. So as soon as you get it all the way up, it should literally pop off of there or be very easily removed from there. So our lock rod, the rod that goes up to the lock button, which is up there, has fallen down, and that's all right. It's not a big deal. This electrical connector is kind of in my way a little bit. If you let the latch fall down inside the door a little bit and get that lock rod kind of up, kind of where it came from, in a vertical position, what you can do is rotate. I'm going to see if I can give you guys a good view of that. You need to rotate it around the window track. So up here, generally speaking, not in this particular case because I've decided to use a used used latch today from an auto recycler, just because a person owns an Escalade doesn't mean they have to be a millionaire. So you just feed our cable back through the hole. The latch is now in the bottom of the door, and try to be careful not to bend the rod as you take it out. So here we go. It's a little bit stuck. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of stuck. And again, guys, this is a lot easier when you're using two hands. I'm using one hand to hold the camera. So we can bring this over here, and we're going to use this. You just kind of wiggle that through there. There's a rubber grommet and a bit of a, again, this is a little bit awkward when you only have one hand because you got nothing to hold it still with. And the end of the rod looks like that. Take a mental note of which way you took it out. This grommet is wider on one side than the other. It goes into the wide side, not into the narrow side. That way it lines up properly with the door once you've when you're ready to put it back together. Okay, so just for the sake of time, I've put the camera on pause for a couple of minutes here. I've added our lock rod and our cable to the new latch. Let's go ahead and put it in. So just a footnote, guys and gals, whoever might be performing this task, when you go to put this in, you literally want to put it in backwards. So when you place it in the door, you want everything to be the wrong way around. You want the cable to be towards the end of the door. You want the latch end, the opening, to be facing the outer sheet metal of the door, and you place it in exactly that manner. Because if this cable ends up going through the window track, you won't be able to put the window down. So we're gonna, again, this is way easier with two hands, guys. And I use the term guys loosely. There's lots of different people that perform tasks like this. Okay, so I've got mine a little bit caught. There we go. So we want this cable to go behind the window track, which is here, and come back out in the same way you found it in the first place. So what I just did was I rested the latch in the bottom of the door and kind of threaded that cable around to where it needed to be. Same thing with the rest of the latch. So we've still got the opening towards the outer sheet metal of the door, and I'm just going to see if I can use my other hand here to grab my cable, and I don't think I'm going to be able to. The main thing is you want the cable to be coming out. You want it to be going behind the window track and out from between this sheet metal and the window track. If it goes behind the window track and comes out this way, you literally will not be able to open the window all the way, and you will be frustrated and you will be like, screw this and I never want to do it again and stuff like that. So same thing as before, we want to install it backwards, and again, way easier with two hands, but try to keep your lock rod vertical and kind of roll it around. There we go. Roll it around. Even give you a good picture of that. You want to rotate it in that direction and make sure that you're there we go. Make sure that you're, so now I'm holding it towards the opening in the door, which is down there. Don't bolt it in place. We are not trying to be bossy about this, but I like everybody that watches my videos to be successful in their tasks. Don't bolt it in place until you've got that lock rod fed up through here. And I'm gonna pause the video just for a second so that I can do that with two hands. So I did forget to mention before, it can make it a little bit easier to find the hole, and you know, insert finding hole joke here, but it can be easier to get it through if you take that little grommet off. It just pushes in and out of place. It's pretty easy to deal with, and we push the latch against the end and line up the bolt holes and insert the bolts. Okay, so we've got the those Torx bolts, those T30s, tightened up. They don't need to be oh my god tight. They need to be snug, and then just a little light jerk at the end. We'll put our grommet back on the end of the, just kind of thread the needle sort of thing, slide it back down into position, and then you just kind of work in the edges of it like so until it's basically flat all the way around. Make sure it's got freedom of movement. If it doesn't, you've probably done something wrong. Now, you may have noticed that we did not connect our electrical connector. That was intentional. The only reason I didn't disconnect it while it was in the door is for the sake of this video. You know where it is. Do not put it in behind. You'll have the same problem. Won't be able to put the window down. Keep it in front. And you can pretty much feel where it is. It's pretty easy to get to. It's fairly high up. It's because it is at the top of the latch. So, but you can, you know, if you can get it kind of squared up there, and once you feel the detents go in, you push that red tab down, and so that's connected. Now, getting back to, do you remember our outside lock knob? And again, I'm sorry about the lighting today, guys. It goes onto that lever, and what I've forgotten to do, and this is definitely my mistake, because I didn't look at the new part to make sure that it still had, and let's just go over to the bench where we've got the old one, that it still had this on it. So basically it's a threaded rod, and the threads just literally go in there, and that snaps closed. So if you do need to transfer it over, all you need is sorry, focus issues here. All you really need is something to push those two tabs in, and then it literally slides out of place, and then you can add it to the new one, which I'm going to do now. Okay, so back over at the truck, you can see that I've got that installed, and it just kind of swivels around, you know, finger tight. So we push the rod into it, and we want to make sure that it actually ends up in, not in the fold, but in where it's supposed to be, in the slot there. We want to make sure that it goes in without any upward or downward tension on it. So make sure you're not like holding it up or pulling it down when you're pushing it in. You just want to push it straight on in. Let it sit there and click the clip closed over it. Now we come back out here, put our little clips back in the door so it holds the cable in the correct position. Now these little guys, this is one of the biggest things, the biggest irritations of this job. Sometimes they're a little bit floppy. As you can see, this one's a little bit worse for wear, and when I say sometimes, I mean usually. So what we're going to do, oops, is go fetch the part that we just dropped and take it over to a vise, or if you don't have a vise, you can use a pair of vise grips or something like that. Get your vise almost all the way closed. Just stick it in there like that. And again, I'm trying to do everything with one hand here. And just give it a little squeeze. Not, you don't want to crush it completely, but you want the ends to just about be touching each other. If they're much wider than that, like that's not too bad, but you do want to give it just a little bit of a crush